The tide of anti-Semitism continues to rise in the United States, across the West, and around the globe. From a string of vicious assaults in Brooklyn on members of the Orthodox Jewish community.
Is there a bias crime outbreak in Brooklyn?
To the atrocity in Pittsburgh.
There has been a shooting at a synagogue in Pittsburgh.
The worst anti-Semitic massacre in American history. To the attack on Passover worshipers at a synagogue in suburban San Diego. The resurgence of this ancient hatred has created a grim toll, with nearly 400 cases of violence recorded worldwide in 2018. In France, jihadists have struck again and again. An 85-year-old Holocaust survivor stabbed to death in her Parisian home. A rabbi and 3 children killed in a Jewish day school in Toulouse.
As terrorists gloated tonight over the Paris attacks.
4 Jews murdered at a kosher supermarket in Paris. Anti-Semitism has seen a resurgence in Europe and has spread across the ocean. Anti-Semitism online, along with incidents of anti-Semitic threats, vandalism, and desecrations, are increasing on both sides of the Atlantic. Anti-Israel protests in the U.S. and abroad regularly devolve into anti-Semitic demonstrations, while socio-economic protests throughout Europe have spawned anti-Semitic vitriol. In the UK, the Labour Party is in upheaval after the party's leadership allowed anti-Jewish prejudice to go unchecked.
I cannot remain in a party that is institutionally anti-Semitic.
And even in the U.S. Congress, accusations of anti-Semitism have been leveled at members of both sides of the aisle. AJC was the first to identify and call attention to the threat of rising anti-Semitism from 3 sources. On the far right, where extreme nationalist movements embrace anti-Semitic tropes from the fascist era. On the hard left, where anti-Semitism is often masked by criticism of Israel. And with Islamist extremists, especially in Western Europe, who often support the genocidal ambitions of Iran, ISIS, Hezbollah, and Hamas. AJC met hundreds of times with European leaders to wake them up to this growing threat. History has taught us that anti-Semitism flourishes when good people are silent. There's far too much at stake. We must fight back against this threat, here and now.
Good morning, and welcome to AJC's Day of Action Against Anti-Semitism. My name is Mitchell Tansman. Today we're here to memorialize the lives of the 11 righteous souls that were taken from us 1 year ago today at the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh, and to affirm our commitment to taking action to combat anti-Semitism. We welcome you, along with the 25-plus partner organizations and synagogues that have joined us, together with our 11 interfaith and intergroup leaders who will help us memorialize the victims of last year's attack, and 9 rabbinical clergy who will offer a prayer for peace. We also extend a special thank you to the elected officials, diplomats, and community partners that are here with us today. A special thanks to you, Lieutenant Governor Hochul, Attorney General Letitia James, and Mayor deBlasio. Thank you for joining us. We extend a special thank you to Central Synagogue, my synagogue, for hosting us today in their beautiful sanctuary. AJC was founded in 1906 to enhance the well-being of Jews wherever they may live and to promote democratic values for all. With 22 domestic offices, 12 international posts, and 37 partnerships with Jewish communities abroad, AJC promotes Israel's place in the world, counters radicalism and extremism, promotes pluralism, and combats anti-Semitism at home and abroad. Our unparalleled access to government officials, religious and intergroup leaders, and other key decision makers helps us impact policy and opinion at the highest levels. Anti-Semitism is not simply or solely a Jewish problem. Hatred of Jews, from whatever noxious source it emanates, right, left, religious, is an affront to human dignity and a threat to our democratic and pluralistic values. The Pittsburgh assault was not only an assault on the Jewish community, it was an assault on American values. Anti-Semitism does not occur in a vacuum. The targeting of Jews is a signal that something is fundamentally wrong in society. We are here today to acknowledge that we hear that signal loudly and clearly, and we need to do something about it. And the hatred that spawns anti-Semitism does not stop with Jews. When Jews are targeted, other non-conforming people, religious, ethnic, people of different sexual orientations, are targeted as well. We also know that we do not stand alone in our fight. The American Jewish community can count on broad support and many allies throughout the country and around the world. Today, we are joined by 11 individuals who represent communities of millions of New York City residents who stand with the Jewish community. And we have the support and voice of our elected officials who are speaking out against hate and anti-Semitism. 1 year ago, in the days that followed the Pittsburgh Massacre, Americans of all faiths converged on their local synagogues to demonstrate their solidarity with Jewish friends and neighbors in an AJC-led initiative, Show Up for Shabbat. 250 million people engaged with the Show Up for Shabbat campaign in person or online. Hundreds of thousands of people in more than 80 countries went to synagogues. Diplomats from dozens of nations around the world participated. Federal, state, and local elected officials advocated their support, and so many others. Hashtag Show Up for Shabbat became the largest ever expression of solidarity with the Jewish community. It has created a growing group of concerned individuals who seek to take action to combat this hate. This year, we were again uplifted by a tremendous outpouring of unity and support, including this past Shabbat here at Central Synagogue and at over 300 synagogues around the country. Our goal for today is for you to depart Central Synagogue empowered to combat anti-Semitism. Our sincerest thanks to all of our community partners who joined us in planning and supporting us today. It's now my pleasure to invite Amy A.B. Bresman, UJA President, to offer greetings.
I am very proud to serve as the president of UJA Federation. UJA works hard to be the agent that binds our community together. We support the building blocks that create a Jewish future. We respond to the ongoing challenges that so many face in this world. And when needed, we respond forcefully and efficiently to the issues of the day. And at this moment in time, we know we must ensure the safety and security of our Jewish community. We have and will continue to provide grants to communal institutions to undertake preparedness assessments to enhance their physical security plans. We will work with organizations to enhance their safety and their relationship with local law enforcement. And we will continue our role as a convener and work hard to establish a community-wide security system. We are fully aware that a thriving Jewish life is only possible when all can enter Jewish spaces without fear. Today, we are grateful to be joined by people of all backgrounds and all faiths who have come together to show that this matters, and without hesitation to stand up against anti-Semitism, hate, bigotry, and intolerance. Thank you to AJC for putting together today's program. It is an important collaboration with UJA, the Jewish Community Relations Council, and Central Synagogue. And it is very important and meaningful to be joined in this effort by so many other key Jewish organizations, as well as so many interfaith groups. When we learned what happened at the Tree of Life Synagogue, the Jewish community here in New York felt the pain of Pittsburgh's loss. Though they were strangers to most of us, the victims felt so familiar. They could have been our friends, our family. We can picture them, the people who always make it a point to come to the synagogue early on a Saturday morning, the congregants who stand at the door to give out prayer books, and those who are quick to say Shabbat Shalom with a smile. And for some of us who have ties to Pittsburgh, these were not strangers at all, but loved ones. Today we remember these 11 men and women taken from us too soon, and we honor them by remembering that history has taught us that silence is never the answer, that our voices matter, that our support matters. We each have a responsibility to stand up and be counted. Thank you all for being here today, because that is exactly what you are doing. And that's what we'll continue to do always, because together we are stronger than hate. Thank you.
As we prepare ourselves to take action, we now take a moment to recite our memorial prayer for those who were taken from us 1 year ago today in Pittsburgh. Jews who had gathered to pray and to learn and to serve, whose dedication provided both the backbone and the pulse of their community, and whose example reminds us that it is through acts of quiet dedication that the Jewish people is sustained. God, full of mercy, who dwells above, be mindful of us here below as we remember our brothers and sisters whose lives were cut short. Grant the shelter of your divine presence to their souls, allowing their examples of their lives to illuminate our own like the brilliance of the heavens. Allow them to find peace in your presence and in the knowledge that we, their neighbors and their survivors, will not forget them and will not forget the work that we must do to fix this broken world. Even as we work to eradicate hate and to protect the living, we pray that you, who are the source of mercy, will continue to shelter our fallen loved ones beneath your wings eternally and bind their memories to your hearts. Let justice, love, and compassion be their legacy and our inheritance, and grant them a perfect rest. And let us say, please rise.
El Malei Rachamim Shochen B'meromim Hametzeh Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanefei HaShekhinah Im Kedoshim Utehorim Kezohar Harakia Mazirim Et Nishmot Yakireinu She'alechu Le'olamam Bal Harachamim Yastirem Besete Knafav Le'olamim Vitzror HaChaim Et Nishmatam Adonai Hu Nachalatam Ve'anuchu b'shalom al
Good morning. I'm honored to be in the presence of so many caring New Yorkers. There are certainly other places people could have been, but your presence here today is a statement of how we come together as a family in times of need, and at a time we need to feel as one. I've been in this place before. I need to come back on a more happy occasion because the last time I was here was with the governor shortly after the Tree of Life massacre, and we all came here with heavy hearts as well. But perhaps it's a place we come to have our hearts lifted up with the possibilities of what can occur when good people come together. And particularly, I'm delighted to see such a cross-section of people from many faiths, many origins, standing together with the Jewish community at a time when they need us, because they are certainly there when their state needs them. I'm also delighted to be in the presence of our great Attorney General, Tish James, our Mayor, Bill deBlasio, representatives, the Consul General from the country of France is here, represent Deputy Consul General from Israel. We thank you for joining us as well. Early this morning, I flew in from the other side of the state, where I sometimes see a guy who claims to be my husband. It was an early flight. I had a chance to speak at a church first in East New York. And I had a few minutes to stop at my office, and I went in to get a cup of tea to perk me up, and on the cup on my desk was a message that I think capsulizes how we feel in New York State. It simply said, "No hate in our state." No hate in our state. And as I watched the video of how Jews have been tormented for their beliefs all across the world, but particularly in Europe, I want to be able to say that that wouldn't happen here. But it's starting to. We're starting to feel that anti-Semitism that perhaps has been lurking in the shadows for a long time, evil under a rock. But something has happened, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's been since 2016, where there's been a liberation of this evil to come forth and manifest itself, whether it's at the slaughter of innocents praying in a synagogue, not once but 3 times in the last year, or the acts that are occurring on regularity on the streets of Brooklyn when people simply walking, dressed as they do to honor their faith, are assaulted and attacked, or even upstate New York, where we're having the defamation of synagogues with Nazi symbols. It's starting to happen here, and that hurts me as a New Yorker. But we are always the beacons of hope for the rest of the nation. We have a special responsibility here. We feel that deeply as the home to more Jews outside of Israel than anywhere else. This is what makes us such a great state, a great city, and we need to protect that. We do not want a single individual to walk in fear down a street ever, anywhere in the state of New York. And it has to stop. And as much as we are declaring this a day of action to combat anti-Semitism, and we have this very nice proclamation I'll address in a moment, we all know that it has to be more than a day. Every day has to be a day of action against anti-Semitism. It has to be every single day. Governor Cuomo takes this very seriously. That's why he has taken countless steps. A day doesn't go by where I don't get a news alert that the governor has activated once again the hate crimes unit of our state police to go investigate and bring to justice someone who dare cross the line and disrespect someone simply because of their beliefs. We also have mobilized the Interfaith Advisory Council, calling on our faith leaders to stand with us. We've been training law enforcement in countless ways to protect individuals, particularly during the holy holidays. Protect our synagogues with $25 million, to protect yeshivas, synagogues, places people gather. And tonight we're lighting the landmarks in blue and white the World Trade Center, places all across the state. So people look up and say, what's that all about, and ask the question, and they are able to hear the answer, that this is the day we stand together. I'll tell you, as much as these are troubling times and we have to figure out a way to put the serpents back under the rocks that they've crawled out of the last few years, but it starts about not being victims. That this is our time to lean into who we are and our beliefs now more than ever, to help educate people, to help them understand. Bringing in the kids into Crown Heights into a synagogue and saying, this is the beauty of this great history. Learn this as well. It's part of our fabric in society. We need to educate. And what gives me hope is that I know that no child is born with hatred in their heart. They're not born anti-Semitic. They're not born to be bigots. They're not born misogynists. They're not born homophobic. So if we can capture the hearts and minds of our young people, we can change the destiny of our nation forever by just showing them love and letting them understand the rich tradition of the Jewish faith. And I'll close by saying, just over 6 weeks ago, I went to Eagle's Nest because I needed to see where the seeds of evil and hatred toward Jews was fermenting, where Hitler plotted the demise of Jews all across not just Germany but the world. And I went to Dachau because I wanted to see what the manifestation of that hate looks like. And the words "never forget" never rang truer. And I thought at one time I would visit these sites with a sense of history and just understanding the past. But I realize this is a guide and a warning for the future. That is why we must stand up now with strength and unity, because it can only go downhill if we do not reject this now before it percolates and starts to take over the hearts of more people. We have the power to change that. And I'm very honored to be here on behalf of Governor Cuomo and 20 million New Yorkers who stand with you out of respect for the innocents we lost, but also to make sure that it ends right there. Never again. I'd like to present this proclamation to Mitchell and Harriet Schleifer, the President of the American Jewish Committee. And I've been in this business long enough to know that there's nobody here who wants me to read every word, right? Okay, I got that. It'll be on display afterward for you to talk about this, but it does talk about Governor Cuomo and our state's commitment to making sure that this becomes a 365-day-a-year commitment to eradicate anti-Semitism.
Shalom. We stand here together today with you in solidarity with the Jewish community of Pittsburgh and with the Jewish community throughout the United States. As we commemorate the one-year anniversary of this horrific anti-Semitic shooting attack at the Tree of Life Synagogue. This is not a random act of violence, but an illustration of how the rising spike in anti-Semitism has spilled onto the streets. In Pittsburgh a year ago, and in Poway on this day 6 months ago. Ambassador Dayan, the Consul General of Israel, is now in Pittsburgh, as he was immediately following the attack. He will spend the day with the families of the victims, with the community, and will attend special services and ceremonies commemorating this attack in Pittsburgh. I'm standing here today with you as a representative of the Consulate of Israel, as a representative of the State of Israel, to tell you that which you already know. We in Israel have been following with great concern this spike in anti-Semitic incidents, including physical attacks against Jews here in New York, in the United States, and around the world. Attacks occur almost every day. We cannot and must not pretend that things can continue as they are, and yes, we must make sure that things are going to change, and things need to change. We are here with you today in solidarity and unity to speak up against anti-Semitism here in the United States and around the world, to pledge to combat anti-Semitism in all its manifestations, forcefully and decisively, together with the Jewish leadership, with elected leaders, as well as other leaders of diverse communities. Many of them are here with us today. Based on the Jewish notion of communal responsibility, Kol Yisrael Aravim Ze Bazeh, we grieve with you as we are one nation and one heart. We think with you so that we can actually act together. 8 decades after the Holocaust, it is our shared history, historic and moral obligation and duty. I want to thank AJC New York, the UJA, JCRC New York, as well as the Central Synagogue and many other partners who contribute to this important event. And I want to thank those organizations as well as our elected officials and community leaders for their leadership in fighting anti-Semitism. Thank you. I would like to invite up the rabbinical partners to offer a prayer for peace. Thank you.
Would you please join with us in reading the prayer for peace responsively? May we see the day when war and bloodshed cease, when a great peace will embrace the whole world.
For all who live on earth shall realize we have not come into being to hate or to destroy. We have come into being to praise, to labor, and to love.
Compassionate God, bless the leaders of all nations with compassion.
Fulfill the promise conveyed in the scripture. I will bring peace to the land, and you shall lie down, and no one shall terrify you.
I will rid the land of vicious beasts, and it shall not be ravaged by war.
Let love and justice flow like a mighty stream. Let peace fill the earth as the waters fill the sea. And let us say, Amen.
שברך אבותינו, מי שברך אמותינו, הוא יברך את כל הקהל הקדוש הזה. מי שברך אבותינו, מי שברך אמותינו, הוא יברך את כל הקהל הקדוש הזה. The families gathered here today who make us what we are. Those who give funds for heat and light, those who give help to the stranger and poor, your sons and your daughters, your families yet to be, May all the blessing of blessings, מי שברך אבותינו, מי שברך אמותינו, הוא יברך את כל הקהל הקדוש הזה. Forgive us and favor us, O God. Remember what we are. Prosper our worthy endeavors. Shower us all with good health. Shower us all. Let us say, מי שברך אמותינו, הוא יברך את כל הקהל הקדוש הזה. מי שברך אבותינו, הוא יברך את כל הקהל הקדוש הזה, הקדוש הזה, הקהל הקדוש הזה.
As we admired the choir, the vice president of AJC, Mitchell, whispered into my ear that they are our best hope, our youth. Another round of applause. To the Lieutenant Governor, to the Mayor, to the Borough President, to the Deputy Council, to President Bresman, and to all of you, good morning. In times of mourning and heartache and confusion, we yearn for a sense of community and support and love. And so I want to thank the Central Synagogue and Rabbi Buchdahl for opening up your congregation and welcoming us today and this morning to this wonderful memorial. And I want to thank AJC for organizing this event. 1 year ago, we experienced an act of hate so evil that we all struggled with how to cope, with how to heal, and with how to move forward. 11 individuals murdered at their place of worship because of that worship. And in the days and months that followed, in the face of the deepest despair, the Tree of Life community, the Pittsburgh community, the Jewish community, and our collective community was able to slowly heal because we had one another. Because Muslims came together and they raised money to support the Tree of Life. Because the Calvary Episcopal Church hosted high holy services for the Tree of Life congregants because they did not have their own synagogue to use. Because people from across the country and around the world, people of all faiths and ethnicities, reached out to support the Tree of Life and the larger Jewish community. And in New York, we gathered here today, here at Central Synagogue on Shabbat. And I, like all of you, showed up for Shabbat. Members of all different faiths joining together to show our love and support for our Jewish family and to denounce this abhorrent act of anti-Semitism. And looking around this synagogue today, I'm so moved by all of the individuals who are here today, and so many more standing together in solidarity, in friendship. Because the most powerful tool that we have is each other, and the most powerful tool that we have is to stand together. A circle of humanity that cannot and will not and shall not be broken. A circle of humanity which is unbinding and unyielding, which represents the kind of love that will not be shaken by the hatred of others. And time again, in the aftermath of hateful acts, that is exactly what New York City and New York State has done. We have stood together because there is nothing we are prouder of than our diversity, and we will never tolerate any act of hate against any of us. And although we cannot change our history, we can play a role in writing our future and ensuring it is one of acceptance and inclusion and compassion. And as the former city council member of my beloved Crown Heights, and as an honorary member of the Lubavitch community, we will strengthen our resolve to protect the residents of Crown Heights, and we will continue to provide classes for young people in Crown Heights and in Central Brooklyn with Deborah Halberstam at the Crown Heights Jewish Children's Museum. And it's important that as we go forward in the state of New York, that we put forth a curriculum focusing on hate and the history of Jews, not only in this country, but around the globe. And that we let individuals know that there is a bond between Jews and blacks, and that Jews were there for blacks in the civil rights struggle. And it was Jews who referred to blacks not by their first name, but by their last names. And it was Jews who opened up their doors and their stores to blacks who were being persecuted in the South. And as a result of that, and because we are inextricably tied together, it is that bond that will not be shaken. And so today, in honor of the 11 individuals whose lives were stolen in Pittsburgh and the countless more who have faced intolerance, we light 11 candles in their memory and use the light in their lives to guide us forward in peace and understanding, knowing that hope rises through love to light the darkness of the hour I am a branch of the tree of life, and I stand before you in peace and in love. And let me close in the words of an old Negro spiritual, that weeping may endure for a time, but keep the faith, it will be all right, because our troubles won't last always. Amen and bless you.
For over 2,000 years, Jewish communities worldwide have lit candles in memory of departed souls. In the book of Mishlei, Proverbs chapter 20, verse 27, the wise King Solomon tells us that the candle of God is a person's soul. Ner Adonai Nishmat Adam. When a soul departs this world, it leaves a tangible, spiritual, dark void. The traditional Yortzai candle, known in Hebrew as a Ner Neshama, a candle of the soul, serves to replenish this light.
As the largest and most diverse Jewish community in the United States, we are honored to have friends and allies that stand by our side, especially as anti-Semitic assaults increase. And know that we too stand with you in opposing hate and hate crimes of any sort against your own communities and faiths. May the light brought forth from these candles in memory of the 11 people whose souls left us 1 year ago help warm the souls of all people and bring understanding, goodwill, and brotherhood to our communities throughout the world. Joyce Feinberg was a dedicated mother and grandmother and longtime board member of the Tree of Life Synagogue. She worked throughout her life to use her intellect to help others, including education, research at the University of Pittsburgh's Learning, Research, and Development Center. May the memory of Joyce Feinberg be for a blessing. This candle is lit by Aura Duflay, attaché at the Permanent Observer Mission of the Holy See to the United Nations. There she represents over 1 billion Catholics worldwide.
Richard Gottfried was a dentist who ran his practice with his wife and partner, Peg. Dr. Gottfried was dedicated to charity work, providing free dental care to refugees, immigrants, and others in need. May the memory of Richard Gottfried be for a blessing. The next candle will be lit by Minister Yolanda Richard of the Federation of Protestant Welfare Agencies, an organization which advocates against poverty and whose faith and community-based work reaches more than 1.5 million New Yorkers each year.
Rose Mallinger was a caring, gentle, and loving mother, grandmother, and great-grandmother who was always there for her family. And she was a warm and welcoming member of the Tree of Life Synagogue. Friends remember her as vivacious and full of life, still spry at the age of 97. May the memory of Rose Mallinger be for a blessing. This candle is lit by Nicholas Antone of the Greek Orthodox Archdiocese of America, lighting for the 1.5 million Greek Orthodox member in 560 parishes throughout the United States.
Jerry Rabinowitz was a primary care physician known for his kindness and compassion. At a time when most people were scared to treat AIDS patients, he cared for them without gloves and even hugged them at the end of visits. May the memory of Jerry Rabinowitz be for a blessing. This candle is lit by Ramaswamy Mohan of the Hindu Temple Society of North America, representing over 20,000 devotees in the Hindu community.
Cecil Rosenthal was an outgoing man. He was called the unofficial mayor of Squirrel Hill. He lived in a home for individuals with developmental disabilities with his brother David, but he treated the Tree of Life Synagogue as his home. He cared deeply for the community and loved family gatherings, and the community loved him. May the memory of Cecil Rosenthal be for a blessing. This candle is lit by Carol Robles Roman, General Counsel and Dean of Faculty at Hunter College, on behalf of the Latino communities in New York City.
Like his brother Cecil, David Rosenthal was dedicated to Tree of Life and was described as a gentle giant. He was reserved and shy, but had a great sense of humor and a love for police officers and firefighters. May the memory of David Rosenthal be for a blessing. This candle is lit by Imam Tahir Kukai of the Albanian Islamic Cultural Center of Staten Island. Imam Tahir serves not only the Muslim community of Staten Island, but also, apropos to David, as the Muslim chaplain of the New York Police Department.
Bernice Simon was a retired nurse. She and her husband, Sylvan, were married at the Tree of Life building, and they were deeply rooted in the community. May the memory of Bernice Simon be for a blessing. This candle is lit by Fred Teng, president of the America-China Public Affairs Institute, representing the diverse Chinese American community within the United States. Thank you, Fred. Yay, Fred.
Sylvan Simon loved his wife Bernice, and they did everything as a married couple. He was a military veteran and a retired accountant. Despite needing a walker, he was a reliable and active member of the congregation. May the memory of Sylvan Simon be for a blessing. This candle is lit by Pastor Gil Monrose of the Mount Zion Church of God Seventh Day, who represents nearly 1,600 houses of worship as the director of faith-based and clergy initiatives for the Brooklyn Borough President, Eric Adams.
Daniel Stein's rabbi remembers him as the consummate volunteer, ready to do anything for anyone and not requiring thanks. His son noted that he had two loves, his grandson Henry and his synagogue. May the memory of Daniel Stein be for a blessing. This candle is lit by Sheikh Musa Drameh, chairman of the Islamic Cultural Center of North America, a representative of the diverse African and African American community in New York, and of the Muslim community of the Bronx.
Melvin Wax was an accountant whose love of numbers and statistics followed him into retirement, where he used them to track his beloved Pittsburgh Penguins. He was always the first one in the synagogue, but parked several blocks away, even in bad weather, to let those who really needed it park closer. May the memory of Melvin Wax be for a blessing. This candle is lit by Simranjit Singh, Senior Fellow at the Sikh Coalition, an organization representing Sikhs throughout the United States and works to protect the constitutional right to practice faith without fear.
Irving Younger was known for his generosity, outgoing nature, and natural charisma. The son of 2 Holocaust survivors, he was a lifelong resident of Squirrel Hill and loved coaching the Little League. May the memory of Irving Younger be for a blessing. Maya Katan, representative of the LGBT community, will be lighting the final candle.
We are grateful to each of you for being here with us. Your support and the support of your communities is deeply meaningful to all of us. Thank you, and may God bless you.
I want to thank everyone who's here. That ceremony we just witnessed reminds us of hope, reminds us of the power of everyone convening together in common cause, reminds us of our diversity coming together to protect each other. I really want to thank AJC, not just for memorializing those we lost, but for calling this a day of action. AJC deserves tremendous praise for recognizing that we honor these martyrs, not just with our words, but with our deeds. I want everyone to take a moment before you leave this place to look in the program, because they're actually tremendously powerful suggestions, guidance about how we take action. And I want to talk about the meaning of action in this moment. I want to talk about our responsibilities to each other. I want to talk about the consequences that we need to ensure will befall those who practice hate, how we can never let hate be normalized. So I speak to you like everyone here feeling sorrow. We're mourning. But I'm angry at the same time. I'm angry at those who would propagate hate. I'm angry that hate is reasserting itself. I'm angry at anyone who calls themselves a nativist, because the idea of nativism offends the ear of every New Yorker. It should offend the ear of every American. This great country, built on the contributions of so many backgrounds, some who came here willingly, some who did not come here willingly, but all contributed. In the midst of all that has been achieved by America, by the United States, by New York City, a movement emerges on our own soil, yearning for a time that never was, and trying to convince those who are confused, those who are grieved, that they should hate others. That's what's happening in our time. And it cannot be allowed. And I want to remind you, as we saw those poignant photos and heard those stories, the painful reality that some of those massacred were children of Holocaust survivors, reminds us that we have been given all the history we need by the events of decades ago, all the history we need to know what it looks like when hate starts to grow, to know how it becomes institutionalized and normalized. And it's happening right this moment. Many things, painful, horrible things, happened at Charlottesville. One of the most striking were the words laying responsibility for all the problems at the feet of the Jewish community, building that conspiracy theory once again. It's been dispelled and dispelled and dispelled, and its horrible impact has been shown over and over again, and yet, here we go again. So I want to focus on what we need to do to ensure we never need to gather for another memorial to other poor souls who were massacred. The first is to use all of our power, not just to condemn, but to take from anyone, I don't care if they're an elected official or a business figure or a civic leader, anyone who would use their platform to normalize hate, we need to take that platform back from them using all of the means of a democracy. Anyone who practices violence must feel the consequences. And this is so important in this city. And I want to remind you that we are blessed in this city to not only have the finest police force in the world, but a police force that believes a hate crime must be addressed every single time. We know our history. When something is ignored, it gives permission. So in this city, the NYPD does not ignore a single act of hate. And I am, like so many here, a believer in education, a believer in reaching our young people, a believer in spreading positive messages, but I also believe in the power of consequence. Those who would do ill need to see they will never get away with it. So yes, we have established an office to prevent hate crimes. And we will educate, and we will call to action all New Yorkers, but we will also use the power of our criminal justice system to ensure that the consequence is obvious to all who harbor hate in their heart. It's also so important that we not fall into a state of powerlessness, because we see this pain, we see this danger, and we feel we can't stop it. Everyone can participate. Everyone has a role to play. What we talked about so much in the fight against terror is equally true in the fight against hate. When you see something, say something. because idle words are not always so idle. When someone starts speaking about hate, when someone starts musing about doing ill to others, that's exactly when that person must be reported. And that's exactly what did not happen in decades past, when small little comments went ignored and turned into speeches and turned into political movements that became governments that used violence against the Jewish people. So to everyone, to all the dignitaries here, to all the clergy, the elected officials, the community leaders, everyone here in Common Cause, our job is to fight. Our job is to fight hate. Our job is to fight indifference. Our job is to fight anyone who would minimize the danger. Put yourselves in a similar room. Choose the year, 1922, 1933. Choose the country. And realize that if people of goodwill had seen the danger in its fullness, how different the world would have been. So instead of saying it cannot happen here, we are empowered by saying, yes, it can. We aren't proud of that fact, but it can and it does. But we are hopeful because we will stop hatred dead in its tracks. Thank you. God bless you all.
Good morning. On behalf of everyone at AJC, I am humbled to be speaking before you today. I am the daughter of Holocaust survivors, and just yesterday in our synagogue, we turned to Genesis, and we spoke about Cain and Abel. And we do declare, all of us here today, that yes, we are our brothers and our sisters' keepers, and we will always be each other's keepers. Many thanks to Mayor deBlasio, Attorney General Tish James, Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul, our dignitaries, and our clergy present here today. And many thanks to Rabbi Buchdahl and to the entire team at Central Synagogue for welcoming us today in this just beautiful sanctuary. And thank you to UJA, Federation of New York, to the JCRC, and to all the many synagogues and partner organizations who are each joining us today. As you heard from Mitchell Tansman, AJC is a global advocacy organization committed to fighting anti-Semitism at home and abroad. We are in the business of action and creating positive change. Today, I hope you will join me in taking action to combat anti-Semitism and to make sure that atrocities like the attack at the Tree of Life Synagogue never happen again. The 11 actions that I'm about to share are outlined in the program, thank you, Mayor deBlasio, that you received when you entered the synagogue. Action 1. Just 2.5 weeks ago on Yom Kippur, 2 people were murdered after an anti-Semitic attack on a synagogue in Halle, Germany. This attack is the latest in a series of increasingly violent anti-Semitic attacks on Germany's Jewish community this year. Together, we can demonstrate to the vibrant and growing community of Jews in Germany that we stand shoulder to shoulder with them and tell the world that an attack on one Jew is an attack on all. For our first action, we encourage you to sign AJC's Message of Solidarity with Germany's Jewish Community. And you can do so at www.ajc.org/takeaction. Action 2. As we remember those lost in each of the 3 communities that made up the Tree of Life Synagogue, and in solidarity with the attack in Poway, we mourn the loss of innocent lives. We stand motivated to urge Congress to act to counter the increase in hate crimes and to pass gun control laws that strengthen background checks and address the proliferation of semi-automatic assault weapons. Anti-weapons. You can take action to urge Congress to act to address hate crimes and enact gun control on AJC's website or through your own personal advocacy. Action 3. Anti-Semitic incidents in the U.S. rose nearly 60% in 2018. At AJC, we've been sounding the alarm about resurgent anti-Semitism at home and abroad for 2 decades. That's because before Pittsburgh, there were Toulouse and Burgas. And before Pittsburgh, there were Copenhagen and Paris. Innocent Jews around the globe murdered just for being Jewish. A terrifying report commissioned by the European Union and released in December 2018 finds that 89% of European Jews say anti-Semitism has increased over the past 5 years. Almost 40% have considered leaving Europe for good. In this vein, AJC conceived and helped establish the Congressional Bipartisan Task Force for Combating Anti-Semitism in 2015. Today, the task force is comprised of more than 174 members of Congress and works with government officials at home and abroad to develop policies to address rising anti-Semitism, protect Jewish communities, and understand how technologies such as the internet and social media facilitate the hatred of Jews. Visit AJC's Take Action page to contact your congressional representative to join and encourage their colleagues to do so as well. 4. Together we can urge Congress to improve the reporting of hate crimes. As we know, anti-Semitic and other hate crimes in the United States are on the rise. Yet our nation's ability to address this increase is hindered by the lack of information about these crimes. In 2017, Miami, Newark, Syracuse, and more than 85 cities with a population of over 100,000 failed to report hate crimes to the FBI. We cannot allow crimes motivated by hatred toward a victim's real or perceived race, religion, national origin, gender, sexual orientation, gender identity, or disability to go unchecked and uncounted. Join the Muslim Jewish Advisory Council, co-convened by AJC and the Islamic Society of North America, in standing up for the civil rights of all Americans, and by advocating for legislation that improves the FBI's ability to more accurately track hate crimes. You can register your voice online through our website. Action 5. In the first comprehensive survey of American Jews on anti-Semitism released just this week, AJC found that 9 out of 10 Jews believe that anti-Semitism is a problem, and more than half believe that Jews are less secure today than they were just 1 year ago. A third take measures to hide their Jewishness. That's no way to live in America or anywhere else. We must educate ourselves about anti-Semitism and the nature of the problem. To do so, AJC has developed a set of online tools and resources to help you talk to your neighbors, social media networks, and community about the rising problem of anti-Semitism, the fear that American Jews, all Jews, now carry, and the danger that anti-Semitism poses to all of society. This education effort is called Translate Hate, and you can find it on ajc.org/Translate Hate. Action item 6. We are pleased to welcome today people of all faiths and backgrounds, Jewish and non-Jewish. We urge everyone here today to continue to reach out to clergy and community leaders about the rise in anti-Semitism. Ask them to educate their constituencies and ask if you can speak at their gatherings in your community. And spread the messages that you've heard today. As Mitchell Tansman mentioned in his opening remarks, anti-Semitism is not a Jewish problem. Anti-Semitism is an affront to human dignity and a threat to our democratic and pluralist values. The targeting of Jews is a sign that something is fundamentally wrong in society. And the hatred that spawns anti-Semitism does not stop with Jews. When Jews are targeted, other non-conforming people are targeted. It is vital that we work across communities and educate on and fight against anti-Semitism. Item 7. The terrorist group Hezbollah was established on the ideology of anti-Semitism. Its founding principles are rooted in the hatred of Jews, the elimination of the Jewish state, and the determination to deny Jews their right of self-determination or nationhood. Hezbollah knows that more Jewish blood has been spilled in Europe than anywhere else, which makes that continent a fertile breeding ground to fulfill its mission. To stop this rising anti-Semitic tide, Europe has the moral and legal obligation to halt all of Hezbollah's activities within its jurisdiction. Join us in removing Hezbollah from European soil and stemming the tide of their anti-Semitic terrorist activity. And visit ajc.org/Stop Hezbollah for more action and ways to take action. Action number 8. Sharing the story of rising anti-Semitism and the effect it has on our community is a powerful way to combat it. However, in an age of discrimination and media saturation, it is vital that this story is not only communicated, but communicated effectively. When contacting your local media and online sources, please use information found on AJC's Translate Hate website, our Action Center, and throughout our website to write pieces for online and print publications. Our community's voices can be amplified through your words. Action item 9. We are blessed to have one of the best police forces in the country right here in New York City. We have a hate crimes task force that thoroughly investigates every alleged hate crime and brings the perpetrators to justice. Thank you, Mayor. Please help me welcome and thank with utmost gratitude Detectives Al Janeo and Mike Rodriguez of the Hate Crime Task Force for their service to all New Yorkers. They're standing there. Unlike several other large cities in New York and across the country, the NYPD routinely reports hate crimes statistics. Please visit the NYPD Hate Crimes website to learn about what constitutes a hate crime, how to report a hate crime or bias incident, and the difference between freedom of speech and a hate crime. The link to the NYPD webpage will be sent in an email to you tomorrow, or you can search on the internet NYPD Hate Crimes. You can also follow the Hate Crimes Task Force on Twitter for live updates at the handle @NYPD Hate Crimes. Also, and this is unusual because we're asking you to take out your cell phones, enter the number 1-888-444-HATE. 1-888-444-HATE or 4283. And you can use this number to report a hate crime or bias incident. And I would be remiss if I did not also mention and thank our wonderful NYPD Community Affairs Bureau, who works with our houses of worship and builds bridges with New York's diverse communities. And also the Jewish Community's Liaison to the Police Commissioner, Detective Dominic Scotto. Action 10, be an upstander. When you hear or read an anti-Semitic statement or hatred towards any group, speak up. Educate yourself on AJC's TranslateHate.com website. Understand what anti-Semitism is. Learn about tropes that are used against our interfaith and intergroup allies, and be an upstander. As we know, words lead to actions, and we as a community have the power to combat hate. And Action 11, reach out to AJC New York and join us in our effort to combat anti-Semitism. And you can do so by emailing newyork@ajc.org and spell out New York. We believe in the importance of every voice and look forward to working together to expand our reach and efforts against anti-Semitism. In the blessed memory of the 11 congregants of the Tree of Life Synagogue who lived, prayed, loved, and died as Jews and as Americans, may we rededicate ourselves to the sacred task of building a world committed to love, to peace, and to hope. There is simply no room for anything else. Today and every day, we must take action. And now I'd like to welcome Michael Schmidt, AJC New York Director, and thank you.
Thank you, Harriet, for outlining so eloquently 11 steps that we each can take. And I urge you to look on our website, ajc.org, to get all the information that Harriet shared with you. I just want to briefly thank each of you for coming out on this very rainy Sunday morning. It's very important that you're here and that your voice is heard, and we appreciate people from all backgrounds being with us and joining us today. And I especially want to thank Central Synagogue for hosting us so beautifully. The clergy, the staff, the administrators were also wonderful to work with and just made today seamless. Thank you. Mitchell, your comment to Tish was 100% on, and we had invited very consciously HaZamir, the International Jewish Teen Choir, to be with us today. And thank you to Scott Stein, who led them beautifully, and you are our future, and we look forward to continuing to hear your beautiful voices for many generations to come. Toda Rabah, and thank you to so many of our partners who came out today and who worked with us throughout the past few weeks. This program could not have been put together without you. I certainly want to acknowledge all of our elected officials who are here, Mayor deBlasio, Attorney General Letitia James, and Lieutenant Governor Hochul, who had to leave a little early. And thank you for all of the other elected officials and the many, many diplomats and our interfaith partners and intergroup partners who came out to speak out and to be with us today as well. Thank you to Israel Nitzan and to the Israel Consulate for always being with us and being a voice that partners with AJC and with so many for speaking out. And of course, thank you to the UJA Federation and to Amy for representing them, to Michael and to Cheryl for being partners through the JCRC, and to Noam Gilbert for all the work that he did behind the scenes. Finally, I want to just thank Eric Post, who worked very hard behind the scenes. Takes a lot of work to put this all together, and thank you to Beth Levick and the rest of the AJC New York team who were working over this weekend and for many weeks leading up to this weekend for Shabbat. 365 days of the year, AJC is there for you and working in the forefront to promote the well-being of Jews wherever they may live and to promote democratic values for all. I encourage you, as Harriet said, not to be a bystander, to really join us in our work. You can email us at New York, spelled out, at ajc.org, or visit us at ajc.org, our website, and learn more. Tomorrow you will receive an email with specific ways in which you can further become engaged and involved in our work, and I urge you to do so and to share that email with family, colleagues, and friends. It's now my very honor to introduce a good friend of AJC, a member of our Board of Governors, and the senior rabbi here at Central Synagogue, Rabbi Angela Buchdahl.
I'm so very moved to see our sanctuary filled with so many souls who are committed to taking action against anti-Semitism. And I want to offer particular gratitude to our elected officials, our leaders, and to our interfaith friends who stand with us as a Jewish community. It is so meaningful because the reality is Jews cannot fight anti-Semitism alone. And we want to commit to you as a Jewish community that we will also stand with you in the fight against Islamophobia and racism and homophobia and all the bigotries that unfortunately are tearing our country apart at this time. So we will stand together and we will remind ourselves that celebrating diversity and welcoming the huddled masses who are yearning to breathe free and making this country a land of opportunity for all people, these are not values that belong to any political party. This is not a blue issue or a red issue. We have purple mountains, majesty, and that is what makes America beautiful. Let's remember that. So, please rise with me in this prayer that we will make America the beautiful country we know it can be, and it has been and will continue to be. Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesties above the fruited plains. America, America, God shed his grace on thee and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea, and crown thy good with sisterhood from sea to shining sea. May it be so. God bless us on this path. Thank you.